after trauma, your body is divided in two. You have a part of yourself that is constantly scanning the environment, especially other people and especially your significant partner, for signs of danger. Now, these may be physical dangers, but it is more likely emotional danger. Are there signs of betrayal, rejection, abandonment, neglect, so on and so forth? Because your body is constantly scanning others for these danger cues, it means it is constantly on a state of alert. Not only is this part of you always on alert, but it's also proactive. It also interprets the behavior and words of your partner as potential threats. This means that your central nervous system is always elevated. It is never really relaxed to where it feels safe and is in a regulated mode. Now, let's call this part of you that is vigilant to being re-traumatized the wounded part. The other part of you, sometimes buried deep down beneath the protection, the defenses, and the alarm bells, is a deep yearning to connect and to attach to others. This is a deep yearning to be heard and seen and understood, and above all, to feel emotionally safe in your own body and with your partner. Let's call this side of you the hope for connection side. So these two sides are actually two different systems within your body. The wounded side is the body's natural way of protecting itself. The hope for connection side is the attachment system. And neither of these systems go away. They are always with you from cradle to grave. This is why I often say we are made for protection just as much as we are made for connection. But as we all know, these two systems often can keep us stuck. And we can go to battle inside ourselves, almost like a tug of war, both sides pulling on the same rope in the hopes that they will win. And this tug of war plays out in our relationship, often in the form of trust. So that's what we're going to talk about today, how to build trust after trauma. Let's get started.
Welcome to Trauma-Free Relationship, a podcast that provides support and guidance to help heal the wounds of attachment trauma. Whether you find yourself struggling with unresolved issues in the past or have experienced trauma in your current relationship, our goal is to provide accurate, scientifically informed information, as well as the tools to help you create a secure connection between you and your partner. And here's your host, Tom Philp.
Okay, one of the things I see in my couples frequently, especially when one partner struggles to trust the other partner after a relational trauma, is the trauma may or may not have occurred in the current relationship. Maybe it's something from a previous relationship or family of origin growing up, but it always gets played out in the current relationship. And so what I often see is one partner will interpret the behavior of another partner as potentially signs of being neglected, re-traumatized, abandoned, rejected, whatever that might be. And so it hits this core place, this protective place, this wounded place inside them. And then what essentially unfolds is, with my help, I'm able to get the other partner, the one that may not have been triggered, that may not be in their wounded part right now, to be able to turn and speak reassurance to the other partner. I'm not leaving you. I love you. I'm not going anywhere. It doesn't matter if you lose it sometimes. It doesn't matter if you're a mess. You're my mess, and I want it. I want it all. And it doesn't matter how much words of comfort or reassurance or soothing that partner might be able to give. The other partner, the one that's been triggered, the one that is in the wounded part of their self, really struggles to be able to internalize that. They struggle to be able to take that in and let that comfort, that reassurance, that soothing become a part of them and a part of their relationship. and how they see themselves. And so this is what I mean when I say that inside of us there are two systems that are sort of in a tug of war. It's the wounded, protective, defensive system, and it is the hope for connection, the attachment system. And trauma disrupts that. And so it disrupts it in a sense that it creates a stronger divide within us. And oftentimes, because of trauma, we privilege the defensive, protective side of us more than we privilege the more hope for connection side. So building trust after trauma, let me just say this, it is not like a light switch that we can just flip on or off. It's often not even a single event or a big gesture. It's nice when we watch all these romantic comedies, and usually what you see is the couple meeting and falling in love, but then some adverse event happens. Maybe it was a lie or whatever, and they somehow they're split up. They have a rupture in the relationship, and now the second half of the movie is trying to figure out how do these two people repair that and get back to a place where in the end it leaves the audience feeling like, oh, they're in love and they are meant to get back together. And that's all fine and dandy on our movie screens, but we know that real life doesn't work like that. Because if there was a big enough rupture, it disrupts this system inside of us that says, I don't know if I can ever trust this person again. Or again, maybe it was from a previous relationship where we say, I don't know if I can trust anybody else again. Even though I love this person, I like this person, I want to be with this person forever, can I really let down my guard enough to trust this person? So I say it's not like a big gesture we see in the movies where the protagonist might make some grand gesture that melts the heart of the other partner and they fall back in love. That rarely ever happens in real life. But what it really is like when we try to build trust after trauma is it is a slow, deliberate process of retraining our central nervous system and essentially our bodies to be relaxed and safe with another human being. Let me say that again because looking at my notes here, I bolded this, I underlined it, and I italicized because I think this is so important for you to hear. When we talk about building trust after trauma, it is a slow, deliberate process of retraining our central nervous system and our body to be relaxed and safe with another human being. Because when that happens, we will no longer need to be vigilant for the fear of being re-traumatized. And we will no longer have to interpret our partner's behavior as dangerous or a potential threat to being re-traumatized. Now, I don't mean to be dramatic or even use hyperbole here, but this is essentially what you are doing. If you are trying to rebuild trust after trauma, you are struggling with these things. And if this is a difficult process for you, if you're listening to this podcast and you've been working on this for a while, take a deep breath, give yourself a break, because this is not easy work. And I don't think that you're trying to sabotage your relationship or you're intentionally trying to keep out reassurance or deliberately blocking any attempt to heal. You are retraining your body to acclimate to something that it does not have experience with or has had a big disruption in that experience. And you are essentially retraining yourself to prioritize your hope for connection system or side over the wounded, protected side. And you're literally rewiring yourself to rebalance your two systems. Right? Because part of secure attachment, part of feeling safe in our own body, safe with another human being, is not that we have one system on and the other system off. It's that we have a balance between the systems. which creates flexibility in our ability to respond and have close relationships and maintain close relationships in our life, especially with our most significant other. So I really hope you hear this. If you have struggled with this for a while, if trusting others is something you still wrestle with and grapple with, take a deep breath, give yourself a break, because this is hard work. And you're not doing anything deliberate or intentional to keep it out. What you're trying to do is literally rewire yourself so that you can create more of a balance inside yourself between these two systems. All right, so the question then becomes, how do we rebuild trust after trauma? Well, I've got two things I want to talk about, and there's probably a lot more I could talk about. But I want to just keep it clean and concise today, because I really think that you can only work on one, maybe two things at a time. So if this podcast resonates with you today, just pick one of these things and start with it, and then move on to the other. I didn't want to inundate you, the listener, with like 18 things you can do, because realistically, you're going to walk away probably overwhelmed and you might not do any of them. So I've got just two things that I think are really essential for learning how to rebuild trust after trauma. Number one, you have to be able to recognize which system is operating in your body. Is it the wounded protective system that's currently on? Or is it the hope for connection system that is currently on? What I can tell you is that if your body feels tense, if you feel anxious in your stomach, a tightness in your chest, if you feel a tightness in your shoulders or heat in your head, you're probably operating more out of the wounded protective side of yourself than you are the hopeful for connection. If, however, you feel more relaxed, you feel maybe a tug in your heart, you feel less heat radiating from your head and your shoulders, but maybe a little more open and exposed, then you're probably operating more from a hope for connection side of yourself, the attachment side. Because realistically, we can only connect to others when we are vulnerable. And vulnerability comes with a certain amount of risk, and it comes with embedded feelings. It comes with being scared. You're fearful for sure. So there may be some anxiety in your stomach, but it's not the same as the anxiety that comes with the wounded protected side. It feels different. And if you've ever felt those two different ways, you know what I'm talking about. Being open and vulnerable and taking that risk feels different in your body than being protective because your wound has been triggered. So the first thing I would say is start recognizing which system is at play here. Which system is more prominent in me right now? Am I operating more from a wounded protective side, or am I operating more from the hope for connection side? So that's the first thing. That might take you weeks or even months to get that process down to where you can really begin to recognize, what am I feeling in my body? Which system is operating right now? What might have triggered that system to come online, so to speak? I hate to use internet metaphors when we're speaking about our bodies, but sometimes they just apply. So, recognizing that could take you a while. If you tend to be more on the avoidant spectrum of coping and your attachment style, that could definitely take you longer, because being able to integrate your body into your thought process and not cut that off could be enough of a challenge for you for a while to spend several weeks, if not several months, on that alone. Okay, number two. Internalize the good and positive over the negative. So how do we do this? I've thought about this long and hard for a while, and I wish I could come up with a magic wand or a pill that I could just wave over you or give you and say, great, now you are in a good position to internalize positive things in your life. But I just don't see any trick out there other than this. You have to ritualize certain behaviors. You have to create routines in order to internalize something. And I liken it to this. Our core beliefs about ourselves and about others were formed when we were from 0 to about 6 years of age. And some of that stuff is verbal, but a lot of it is nonverbal. Why? Because we picked up the patterns of what was acceptable and not acceptable in our families growing up with our caregivers, whomever that might be, whatever family system you might have had. Now, you didn't learn that because somebody sat down and gave you a bullet point or a concise guide to the family beliefs. You internalized that because you built experience after experience after experience, and eventually that experience was interpreted by you in terms of core beliefs. So when I talk about internalizing something, ritualizing it, or creating a routine or a habit, that is the only way I know of to internalize these things. Just like if you're a person of faith, you might go to your place of worship every week. Why do you do that? Because you need that reminder every single week of what your God or deity does for you. If you are a person of faith, you might read the Bible or scriptures or whatever holy books that you ascribe to. Or maybe it's poetry. Maybe you're a lover of poetry, and so you sit down and you read poetry every day. Or maybe you are working on self-soothing, and so you do some self-guided meditation every single day. Or you can create some positive, affirming statements that you say to yourself every day. These are things that you internalize over time because you ritualize it. You create a habit and a routine of doing it. And there's a lot of research right now, and even some great books out there. One of them that comes to mind is Atomic Habits, that talk about this very thing, that often we are our habits, because what we do is we internalize all of that, and it becomes sort of subconscious to us. And then we begin to live those thoughts and feelings and beliefs out because we ritualize it, we internalize it, we create a routine and a habit around those things. So in order to build trust after trauma, I really think you need to figure out one or two things you can do, whether that's daily meditation, trying to connect your mind with your body, whether it's self-compassion statements or positive affirming statements, whether it's internalizing Bible verses or poetry or whatever it might be for you. Create a ritual out of that. And over time, what you're going to see is the big payoff, because you're going to start living out and believing those things, because they're going to start being internalized into who you are. So those are the two things that I want you to just think about, consider as you move forward, of how to rebuild trust in your relationship after trauma. I want to thank you all for listening once again. I'm just loving the feedback that I'm getting. It's so incredible and positive, and I can't tell you how grateful I am that you feel like this is making a difference. Be sure and reach out and let me know what you like, don't like, what you might want to hear more of. You can also reach out for any coaching. We can coach folks from all over the world, and I know we've got people from about 25, 30 different countries that listen in. So if you'd like some additional help with anything we're talking about here, you can go to our website, traumafreerelationship.com, and you can sign up for a coaching call. Again, thank you so much for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.
Thank you for listening to Trauma Free Relationship, a podcast for the healing of attachment trauma. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, or our website at traumafreerelationship.com. Be sure to look for our next episode on your favorite streaming service.